is viewed. Debt only becomes bad when the acquisition of that debt does not follow financial principles for acquiring such debts. It is expected that if you have things doing and you can't afford it, and those things are meaningful, you are bound to, if you have access to borrowing, you should borrow to fulfill those obligations.
Yes.
But in a case where what you are borrowing to fulfill is quote and unquote what borrowing over or not what borrowing over is number one. Number two is if it is what borrowing over, what did you make of it after borrowing? Because when you plan to borrow, you should do a cost benefit analysis to tell you that is this what borrowing for? Yes, if it is what borrowing for, what benefits comes from what I borrowed money to implement, and what is the paying back mechanism? That is a major part.
So for Nigeria over the years, our debt has actually mounted to this level because we've been borrowing for the wrong reasons.
We have been borrowing for the wrong reason. We have been borrowing with indiscipline. If you are borrowing for the wrong reason, IMF will not agree. If you write to IMF or China or bank that says I want to borrow to two parties, they won't borrow you. So you must have given a genuine reason to borrow.
But if you are also borrowing,
and when you got the fund, you are not disciplined. With the implementation of what you borrowed. So, and this not being disciplined with the implementation of what you borrowed has a broad spectrum. One, there's corruption. Two, there is the issue of not following due process. There's the issue of quackery. There's the issue of under-utilization. There's the issue of under-implementation. There's the issue of professionalism and all that. So it is a whole lot.
Okay.
We start to break them down.
Okay, Mr. Kozim Sanusi, I think he has set the pace for this discussion with the point he made that there's nothing wrong in borrowing. Other countries do borrow too. Other big countries of the world do borrow. But he has also mentioned the fact that Nigeria has been quite indisciplined, reckless in the way we borrow and in the way we treat the monies that we borrow. Is it the same for you?
Yes, I agree with my colleague here to a very, very large extent. Borrowing is not limited to Nigeria. In fact, in the economic space, borrowing is even in businesses, even big business owners would rather access loans to fund their business plans, because according to business experts, it's the best way to fund a business. But what is wrong here in our own country, like my colleague has stated, is about borrowing for the right reasons, borrowing with concrete understanding of how you want to repay the loans that you've borrowed, borrowing with full consciousness of the impact of the loans you are assessing on your economic situation as it is. Because if you've not been able to do a proper perusal of your economic situation, when you bring in these funds, that you misplace them or misappropriate, as it may be, is just natural. If you go about borrowing, in fact, just recently, someone raised a question and said, why do these financial institutions, why does World Bank continue to even lend us funds? I told that person that that's the business of the World Bank. That's the business. A country like Nigeria will continue to be viable, because you have the potentials to repay those debts.
Okay, talking about debt repayment, Mr. Adibeshi now, Nigeria, for example, the current administration have been talking about, investing largely in the critical infrastructure. They talk about the railway, the construction of roads, the Second Niger Bridge, all kinds of investment. They said they are borrowing to finance, and of course, like you said, it is not a problem if that is what they borrow the money for. So do you see all those things that they said they are using the money for, the ones that we could see right now, that's the infrastructure they are laying claim to be doing, and of course, is it paying back as expected? It's accumulating. The COVID-19 came, of course, it was not expected. The whole world, was shut down. And of course, we also have the Ukraine war going on right now, the crisis rather, Russia-Ukraine crisis going on right now, which is affecting the potential that was speculated in the beginning that will make them pay back the loans. Do you see that as really the problem or something else?
I said earlier, you see, the problem with us is that we didn't tighten our fiscal and financial policies within.
Okay.
If you borrow to build Second Niger Bridge, and ordinarily, if you had closed the loopholes with tax leakages and embezzlement, you would not have needed to borrow to do Second Niger Bridge.
Okay.
So if you keep one end loose and you are borrowing, don't forget that Second Niger Bridge as a road is not to pay back its loan.
Okay.
It's only an infrastructure that will drive further development in other areas because of the ease of movement, the ease of doing business, the infrastructural facility that comes with it. When you are not just looking at infrastructure, and you are not looking at your fiscal and financial management, they are bound to be problems. We can say we want to borrow to build Nigeria to be like Dubai. But the issue is that if we talk about infrastructure doesn't pay immediately.
Okay.
It's a long-term payment thing. Now, we borrow to do the road. We ask the oil. Recently, the Controller General of Customs raised the issue that NNPC says Nigeria consumes 63 million liters per day. But NNPC gives out 98 every day. That the difference, where does it go?
Something.
And we have the NICOM SAT that monitors our borders. It has never shown us over 500 tanker trailers going out of the border to neighboring countries. So something is wrong there. America will not come and fix that. That's a clear statistics that there's serious leakage somewhere. How can you say we are consuming 63 million liters per day and you give out 98 million? And even if you give out 98 million, you cannot tell me that the man who filled his tank this morning will fill it again tomorrow. You cannot tell me that the filling station that bought 3 tankers of fuel will finish selling it today. So why is the 98?
Well, NNPCL is actually saying this morning that they are ready for forensic audit for all that custom boss is saying as well. So I don't know if that will take us away. So Mr. Sanusi,
my sister, let's give that up.
Mr. Sanusi, let's also look at another angle to the debt profile of the country, which a lot of Nigerians are concerned right now. So we are here right now, and we're talking about mounting debt. They are still talking about borrowing to finance the the budget, for example. And of course, one will ask, what should be done? What should Nigerians be doing at this moment to curtail the government's excessive borrowing to the point that they will be disciplined, like he suggested, that it is lack of discipline that is the problem here? What should Nigerians be doing?
This is part of what Nigerians are supposed to be doing. That is what we're doing now.
Okay.
Yes. There should be more awareness, and we should be talking more about this. Like, for instance, just last week, if I'm not mistaken, the bomb-like revelation by the chief of naval staff.
Yes.
You would have expected, a commensurate public response.
Like that.
To that, you understand. But what do we have in our media spaces? we are so fixated on
2023.
On 2023, you know, they talk around religion and ethnicity and all of that, and you know, so distracted. That's just the thing. You know, that interview is enough to bring the serious government down. You understand? Because what it says is that, you know, unlike the claim as to oil debts arising from pipeline vendors or whatever. That's just, it's not, that is too small to have that kind of impact on our economy, on the oil debts, on the shortage, on the fact that we've not been able to meet our quota at OPEC for a long time, of a time immemorial. It's devastating. And when you go a borrowing, your capacity to pay back is measured by your revenue. If you have set, for instance, in the first quarter, you have set, you know, a financial, you know, milestone of paying 1.9 trillion naira to service your debts, and your revenue is no more than 1.5, 1.6. So it means that we are running a very, very, you know, deficit, you know, budget, and we can't continue like that. So this is a time where, you know, for instance, CLOs, unions, NLC, these are the situations, these are kind of reasons why we say, you know, these organizations are agitating for the wrong reasons. These are the kind of issues that, you know, organizations of that nature should bring the government to the table for, you know. But we all stay on one side of the divide, economic divide, and agitate for consumables too. We want salary increase. But we're not talking about the root cause of our general problem, which he has rightly highlighted here. The amount of loss in this economy that is unaccounted for is so big, it's so huge. And if we don't put a stop to those pipe drains, we'll continue to be in a situation.
Is it a myth that Nigeria has been bedeviled with that over the years? When Buhari was coming in, 8 years ago, close to 8 years ago, he came on the strength of being Mr. Integrity, that he was coming to crush corruption and all that. Yet we are talking about leakages in 2022, you know. So is corruption a myth in this country? Is this something that can be crushed? You know, Mr. Adebeshi, okay.
Corruption is not a myth. I think the will to fight corruption is what is lacking. And you see, you can't fight corruption in absentia. If you want to fight corruption, you need to set strong rules and strong examples. Take, for instance, in China. There's no country without corruption. It's only the level of corruption determines the level of damage. If China as a country executed its vice president for corruption, I don't think the governors will go to sleep. I don't think the directors in whatever government parastatal they run will go to sleep. So it is that belief that nothing will happen.
Jonah Jang was left off the hook last week over corruption charges. Yeah. And some people are saying that probably EFCC will still have to come back and say, okay, we're not satisfied with that ruling and all that. What kind of signal does that send to the young ones? You know,
our problem majorly, if I may say, is the judiciary. The judiciary is the real people that can help fight this corruption. But when the judgments you get from the courts at times leaves you appalling. And without apology, our judges are one of the richest judges all over the world. And if you match some of our judges, let me not say our judges, some of our so-called judges are very, very rich.
But they're also complaining about, not having, good pay. Remember the last CJN, the protest.
That's a civil servant judge.
Okay, let's also look at something critical here, Mr. Adebeshi. Let's look at the double standard of IMF. Like you said, one of the agencies that keeps lending Nigeria money, and they say that the developed countries largely get loans from them without necessarily paying, interest. But of course, in the last 2 years, for example, the COVID period, they were giving out loans to developing countries, and Nigeria one of them. And of course, you could hear that agitation from the African countries, African leaders saying that you give loans to us with interest as huge as this, and of course, the developed countries like the US come to take loan from you, the same period, the same pandemic we're fighting, and then their interest, maybe even interestless loans and all that. So how do we manage that aspect as well to make sure they have equity in what we refer to borrowing standards?
Okay, thank you. I think the truth is that Africa needs to wake up. In borrowing, there are many things that determine the rate at which you get a loan. Even in the Western world where we talk about your credit rating, your ability to pay back. Even our banks, they are rated. They are the ones that are AA, B plus. So they rate your credit. When you're a constant borrower and you borrow recklessly, there's bound that your lender would treat you with a higher risk that this man may not pay.
Okay.
Let me recoup my money. If it's a loan that should take 3 years, say let its interest as he paid my money in 1 year. So I know that whatever I'm getting after, because African countries are volatile to war. They're volatile to the stability is so low. If you are lending to the US, I'm not saying there are no politics about this lending thing. If you are lending to some countries that are stable, countries are rated. If the country is stable, the probability of a war, economic downturn is so low. They are bound to have a low rating.
Okay.
In terms of rates. And when your country is so volatile, what can happen? The government can come and say it is not aware of what you collected, and definitely these things affect. Though there's a politics side of it, because as Africans have made themselves. I don't want to say as they've made us. We've made ourselves what they dish to us, because we were be it China, India, Singapore, Malaysia, Nigeria, South Africa. We were at par at some points. These things they dish to us, they don't dish it to India. Because India has stood up to take its destinies in its hands. But we are still going about looking for handouts. When we should be able to be on the same equal terms to say these are the standards, because we all contribute to IMF.
Maybe we should then say, Mr. Sanusi now, that African leaders have truly not really been loving their continent over the years. I think we've seen a few of them who stood up to the Western world. Gaddafi did. And the current Rwandan president, I think has also done some marvelous things in his country. Yeah, but again, almost every time, that we hold an election, there's going to be another one next year. Even in the firmament of those that are going to contest, you don't seem to find someone that can actually stand up to the Western communities and say, look, you have treated us unfairly, and we need to. Are we not going to run into that very soon too, Mr. Sanusi?
Well, each time I am confronted with this kind of question, this kind of issue that you just raised, well, you are almost compelled to start doing rhetorics, because you can only hope. I mean, if you ask me to do an assessment of the front runners in the next presidential election, one can just hope. There's nothing real anywhere. You can just hope that maybe, because truth is that we can't shy away from the fact that leadership is key, as a driver in any progressive growth for any nation or people. It's very key. And the first thing that a leader must work for, must really strive for, is self-sustainability. is very key, because when you continue to rely on others for your survival, you continue to be at their beck and call. And that is, I think that was a major, advancement that was made by Gaddafi. And we all can all tell what eventually happened to him, So, because he believed that if you're able to form a cohesive force and protect our own, maybe we can stand against this.
Let's begin to provide solutions to this, so that it's not just about how the debt rose to the level that we're seeing. In the first quarter of 2022, Nigeria's public debt rose to 41.6 trillion naira from 39.56 trillion naira recorded at the end of December 2021, putting enormous pressure on debt servicing. Now, how do we come out of this? Let's set agenda for the incoming government. Let's assume that this government has left office, and what should we do? What should we begin to do in practical terms? Let's start, Mr. Sanusi.
So, the first thing, I don't know how a government, because I've said it here before, and I'm hold on tenaciously to that view that we need a leader. We need a leader, not just a president. We need a leader that can drive, national love. Yes, it's important. I'll tell you why. At the start of this particular dispensation, this particular government, it's not that the government did not make steps that can give one hope that, okay, yes, we're moving in the right direction. Yes, it's not that it don't happen like that. The economic romance and relationship with China, the economic advances towards, lessening our dependence on dollar. I will say it in lay terms now as a layman economist. The drive towards increasing our revenue base by moving from a mono economy to, other sectors of the economy, especially in the agro-economic sector. All of those are, efforts or programs that you expect from any serious government. I always want to point out one. The moment we made that, this present government made that advancement and that relationship with China, then you know what happened in the Niger Delta at that time. To move from a particular sector of economy, when you're selling just one product, I'm selling just this cup. And that is what I'm using to sustain myself, my expenditure and my day-to-day, everything. And I now want to move on to selling some other products. I need for this cup to be stable. The sale line of this cup from production to be stable, to be able to. And then suddenly, where I dig up this cup, or the factory that I manufacture this cup, I started having problems because I want to move to another sector.
The saboteurs.
That is the thing.
Okay.
When we have people, yes.
Mr. Adebashi, let's also look at another option when it comes to what Nigeria should be doing right now, the solution that we mentioned. During the regime of President Obasanjo, former president now, they were talking about debt pardon. And of course, when COVID came, especially because we're owing so much to China, for example, and of course COVID came from China, as it were, according to the report that we got. And a lot of people are saying that China should be able to give Nigeria debt pardon, if not all, at least a reasonable percentage, because they saw what that did to the economy of a fragile nation like Nigeria. I don't know if that's on the table for the solutions that you would like to provide this morning on the topic.
Okay. I think the first solution is to this our problem is that we have to be hard on ourselves.
Okay.
And to be hard on ourselves, because we are not hard on ourselves, that's why we keep looking at China should forgive us, IMF should forgive us. I don't buy those narratives.
Forgiving
I don't buy those narratives because it only makes you lackadaisical and believe that forgiveness will come. But the truth is, if China gave us money, if China gave us a loan for a particular thing, and the Chinese loan is different from the Western loan. The Chinese loan is not mostly money. The Chinese loan is that they finance infrastructural facility to certain percent, and they ask you to bring your counterpart funding.
Yeah.
So for China, it is real business. They are bringing steel, they are bringing manpower, they are bringing machineries. So in fact, they offer the smartest loans, and they always tie it to a national asset that guarantees them getting back their money. Is that they take over your ports, they take over your airports, or they take over your major facility to get back their money. Such conditions doesn't come with the loan on the other side. So it's an issue of two evils. But my own point is that if we even have to go for loan, nobody forces you to come and take loan at, say, 20%. If you go there, I want to borrow, and the man tells you 20%, I can't take it. And African countries come back that, no, we are not going to take it. Their business is lending. It's one of their business. They will call you back and say, okay, let's talk. Can you do 10? But when you are so desperate that when they tell you 30%, you just bring the money. After you get the money, you now say, nah, the interest is too high. America collects zero interest. When they were negotiating, where were you?
With what you mentioned now, you mentioned Gaddafi earlier. You know, one of the problems they said Gaddafi had during his tenure in Libya was largely that he wasn't borrowing from anybody, so he could control, and that also became a source of problem. So, how exactly are we going to come out of all this?
If Gaddafi says he's not borrowing,
okay,
it is because he's not financially starved.
Okay.
The country was able to run the economy to a surplus.
And they still went after him.
Well, they still went after him was an internal uprisal.
Okay.
So the Libyans sold Libya. If they went after Gaddafi, it is not that Libyans, it was Moroccans that came into Libya and destroyed Libya. Just the Nigerians are the ones sabotaging Nigeria. They may be playing the card of an external influence. But the fact is that it's like Yoruba adage that says "Tikuli over pani." So if we say somebody is influencing what's happening in Nigeria, they didn't come here and become minister. They didn't come here and become governor. They didn't come here and become commissioner. So some Nigerians are the ones that are not patriotic enough to save them. And the moment these people see that you are patriotic enough up to your citizenry, they back off.
Now, what role does current expenditure play in all of this? To be more specific, cost of governance. A lot of people have actually said that there is need for us to tighten our belt. That even if we are asking for pardon from these big countries, you know, and we are remorseful, and it's globally, seen that we are remorseful truly. But in terms of cost of governance, are we remorseful? Are we? I mean, if you look at, the humongous amounts, the money that go into cost of governance, buying of official vehicles, furniture, allowance, and all that. Can we ever come out of this as long as this remains the same way? If you look at the two political parties, PDP and APC, one of them, a lot of people have actually said will emerge. Will produce Nigeria's next president. That's the general belief.
Saying the
even the top fours too. There are still a bit of elements of, because by the time the top fours, if let's assume Labour Party wins presidency, it won't be surprising for you to see a lot of PDP members and APC members run to Labour Party and say we're supporting Obi, and so the same issue persists. Cost of governance, Mr. Sanusi.
I think it's clear that with the way political structure architecture is today, we cannot do it differently. The old system needs a total overhaul. And that is why a large school of thought feels that even if we get the best president today, he may still not get the best results because of the way the arrangement is today. Whether he likes it or not, he must engage about 36 ministers, and apart from that, statutorily, he must have all those, and that is how it is. And especially where what is still popular is doing political appeasement and all of that. You want to put everybody, you want to get everybody involved because of the role they have played in your emergence. So it's like, okay, look at this election now. The so-called task force that you just mentioned is being accused of trying to gather foreign funding for his election, which may not work for him. Well, can you blame him? Because he knows what it will take to really be a real contest to this. So I say we need to onboard him. That's the truth. We need serious, restructuring across the line. There have been a lot of talk about what is the relevance and the importance of having two bicameral legislature. What significant impact is that to our people, to our lives?
House of Reps, Senate.
I mean, what's the reputation?
Like this morning, you are looking like a senator.
Looking like a senator. Even my friend told us I was going to take a picture and become a campaign manager.
They've defended it by talking about representation that is largely a way, we are a diverse set of people in the country, so they want full representation at different levels. That's what the defense has been. Mr. Adibeshin, let's also...
okay, I think... You have also joined them, that's why you're saying...
I'm not joining them. How can I join them? Who am I?
Go ahead.
So a lot of people, like you said, discipline is what we actually need. Like, you can continue to look at Nigeria. They keep referring to us as having the potential to be great, to be, the world leader and all of those things. And of course, we have mineral deposits everywhere. So what exactly do you think Nigeria should be doing, apart from relying largely on the oil proceeds and of course, the little investment they are getting from maybe customs or the taxes that people are paying? How can we deal with the issue of mineral resources that are lying fallow wherever they are in the country, such that it can transform the economic status of the country?
And I want to add to that the issue of devolution of powers. Put this together. Mr. Samson also comment on that devolution of powers.
So that states can actually have the opportunity to bring out these resources and make it.
No, I think what we need to do in real terms is that we need to spread our nets, we need to spread our tentacles. You see, I will tell you that whatever revenue any government is bragging about is a regressive form of revenue. If customs says they made 10 trillion at the end of the year, if we need to go into that revenue, it is sniffing out life out of the common Nigerian. What is import duty compared to other African countries? What do you pay as a Nigerian to import? And how easy is it for you to export? Go to Export Promotion Council, see what it takes you. Why a lot of Nigerians not rushing into exportation? These problems. So when you now bring a vehicle, used vehicle that you bought for $1,000 and clear it with $800, I still pay shipping. No, I'm only in international terms now. I still pay shipping of about another $800. So you buy Corolla here for $4 million. I'm supposed to buy Corolla in the US for just less than about $800. So what are we talking about? What revenue did you make? So if we want to spread our nets, if government really needs revenue, there are a lot of untapped areas for revenue. Not that the one that you have access to, you now sniff life out of people. Look at for instance now, if you are talking about agriculture, for a lot of things have gone sour because government is not involved. It's not that government has to come and take land and plant, but government has to create that enabling environment that supports. Okay, go to our local government now. Tell them you need tractor. Like you want to clear 10 acres of land. That you want to grow cassava, or you want to grow sorghum, or you want to grow wheat. Go there. Where's the tractor?
Well, anyway, because of our time, we can't this is one topic that is so large that we might have to do a part 2 of this. But before we go, I'd like Mr. Sanusi to respond to the issue of devolution of powers. A lot of people have complained the enormity of powers that are in the hands of federal government, and that the states that are closest to the people are not even being allowed to develop, at their own pace, using their own comparative strength to develop, So what role does this play in all of this?
Well, from my own assessment, I'm not sure that as it stands today, we have governors that are even so interested or so ready to have power. I'm not sure. I think what we have. No. I think what we have today are just pretenders that are very comfortable hiding in the shadow of the federal government.
Circumstantial beneficiaries.
That's just how it is.
And
that is what they do. They are just there to hold the federal government by jugular and make the federal government take a fall for all their incompetence. That's just the. That's just how it is.
So the people should also need to do what? Because, like you said, all the incompetencies of these governors.
Yeah, I think the thing is the maximum of equity. Evil comes to equity, should come to equity with clean hands. If the governors are dragging the federal government and their own local government, they're not doing what they're supposed to do. What the federal government is doing to them, they are doing to local government. And they are the middle. Sincerely, the governors are more important than the president.
Of course, definitely.
They are more important than the president. In fact, some states have a GDP that is higher than some African countries.
Yeah.
And there's no law that says a state cannot invest. Why can't the state have a partnership to run an oil company?
Okay, so the excuse of devolution of powers should not really be right.
It's not even an issue.
Because they have what it takes.
There are gray areas that can make it better. But even with what we have, a governor is an executive. He has his legislative arm, has the normal arm that the federal government has. Take the 30% derivation of Delta, their federal allocation, and their IGR. What could Delta State not achieve?
Okay, I think.
Anyway,
food for thought.
45 minutes won't be enough for this kind of topic, but we have tried as much as possible to bring everything together under this under 45 minutes. But of course, our viewers at home, you'll also agree with us that this is a very massive topic. We might need to do a part 2 of this in the days ahead. And of course, the issue of the rising debt profile of Nigeria is not going to go away with us. It's still something that will still be in the media space in the next few weeks before the election. All the same, we must thank our guests for waking up early to be here this morning. It's because of the love they have for OGTV and the love they have for the topic that we have brought up this morning. I must thank you so much. And the country as large. You have to love your local government, your state, and the country. Mr. Alibeshi Mohammed, the financial matters analyst, thank you so much for always coming here for your time this morning. Thank you. And of course, Mr. Cousin Sanusi, thank you so much too.
You're welcome. Anytime.
When we come back, we'll be looking at another issue that is of national importance, and that's university education. As we still on strike, no retreat, no surrender, they call it. Come back.